as a 49ers fan now. If we traded from 12 to 3 to take Mac Jones, I'm going to flip my lid because you didn't need to trade to 3 to get Mac Jones. You could have traded up to 6, and clearly the Eagles were perfectly fine with trading back to 12, and you could have given up way less. Instead of 3 first-rounders, it could have just been 2 first-rounders, and you could have moved from 12 to 6. So they traded up to 3 to get Mac Jones, who they don't need to trade up to 3 to get. I'm going to lose my mind. But that line of thinking, that logical thinking, hopefully, not that front offices always logically think in my estimation, but if they are through that same type of logic, to me, that rules out the idea that it's going to be Mac Jones, which is kind of a bittersweet thing for me because, one, I hope you didn't trade up that much for a guy that you could have gotten at 6, but 2, is bitter because I do have Mac Jones rated ahead of Justin Fields and Trey Lance as far as what type of quarterback I think he can be down the road, especially as a guy who can start right away. Now, the good news is that they're staying hard fast, at least for now, that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to stay on this team. He needs to. Because if it is for Justin Fields, if it is for Trey Lance, he needs to. Because they got to sit. They have to sit for at least half a season to a year. Trey Lance, I think, needs to sit for 2, frankly, before they're actually ready to take over a team and live up to the potential that they have the physical gifts to be. But that's what has to happen. Otherwise you're taking a team that went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago and you're torpedoing it for the next 4 to 5 years because you're not going to have a first-round pick now until 2024. So again, all that is to say, I think it's not going to be Mac Jones. And because I don't think they want to go a super long term because Jimmy Garoppolo does get injured, there is a pretty good chance that whoever they take at this spot is going to start this year, even if they do wind up holding on to Jimmy Garoppolo. That is the case, then Justin Fields, I think, is the guy. That's the case. Justin Fields, I think, is the guy. Just following that logical train of thought, I have no insider information, nothing at all. All I have is what I think and what I can portray when you logically think about this in a sequence, what the value is and everything else. Now, all this could go out the window because they very well could have traded up for 3 and decided that Mac Jones is their guy. But just trying to logically think this out like everybody else is and trying to play a guessing game, that would be my guess from reading the tea leaves, is that it's Justin Fields for those reasons. If Justin Fields goes to the 49ers from a fantasy perspective, he's going to be great. We saw what Kyle Shanahan did with RG3. I can tell you, whether you think Justin Fields or RG3 is better as a prospect coming out, I can tell you this much. Justin Fields is definitely built to take more of a beating than RG3. I'm not worried about the wind blowing at a certain miles per hour to breaking him in half the way it did for RG3. I'm not worried about that. He's not so brittle. He's not made of glass. So he'll be good in that system. If you add a RPO element with a quarterback running style, with a Kyle Shanahan ability to run the outside zone, it's going to be very effective. And from a fantasy standpoint, that's all you care about. I mean, whether or not Justin Fields gets better at post-snap reading and not forcing the ball down the field, and whether he has a longer learning curve because he's coming from an Ohio State system that is notorious for having their quarterbacks who go high be kind of behind the 8 ball when they enter the NFL. It wouldn't matter from a fantasy standpoint because he would have the ability to rush for 60-plus yards a game because it's going to be wide open. And as long as he can hit a Brandon Ayuk, a Deebo Samuel, a healthy George Kittle off of play action, the offense will stay simple enough where you don't have to worry about where is his level of pocket awareness. A lot of his flaws get covered up if he winds up with the 49ers at Kyle Shanahan's system. So he's going to be a top prospect to go after. I'm still going to be taking, in Dynasty Leagues, I'm still going to draft Trevor Lawrence first. I'm still going to draft Zach Wilson first. That's right. I'm still going to draft Zach Wilson first, even if he goes to the Jets. Everyone has the Jets being the laughing stock of the league, and for good reason. But this is a different organization now. This is a different coaching staff that, frankly, again, as a 49ers fan, I have pretty good knowledge of. I think they're going to be pretty good. They're going to be run a little bit differently. It's going to be a different mentality. And no, there's not a lot of weapons there, but Zach Wilson is special. Zach Wilson is a franchise guy. Zach Wilson, and you want to talk to us just purely fantasy, you want to talk about a guy who can run and throw with anticipation. That's Zach Wilson.